Hello everyone, this is the Great Pumpkin speaking and welcome to this new army report about Ogre Battle 64. Since last time, we've went through about half of the second chapter and now we are shortly beginning to unlock new tier 2 classes. So now we'll be doing another one of those army reports and see how our army is coming up. At the moment, Magnus' groups hasn't moved since I don't want to use him until about chapter 4, so we'll start with Carnelli's group. The group at the moment pretty darn similar to what it was before. Basically 3 archers and 2 knights. One of our archers in the back got the bow from the boss of the previous stage. So we'll actually get to see the bow of Sandstorm in action. Furthermore, our knights managed to get their hands on blessed swords, which are extremely powerful given where they are being used, because there are very few characters that are actually not weak to the holy element. So that makes it actually pretty darn powerful compared to swords like for instance the Sun Manus or the Sword of Fire Drake. So yep, nothing too impressive so far, mostly because those imps keeps dodging everything. Still, they're doing alright as far as I'm concerned. Especially in autonomous. Normally if I used Attack Leader or something like that, they'd be pretty much done. So yeah, that's it for this group. One of the problems I've been having right now is that most of my units tend to turn toward lawful alignment, so I'll need to do something about that soon. Thankfully, I'll have a solution, and with so many pumpkin heads with chaotic alignment available for recruitment, that shouldn't be too difficult. Next group, Mary. Another group that hasn't changed much. 2 Earth Dragon, and I'm hoping to turn into Azidakas by the end of the second chapter, as well as a Dragon Tamer. Those also have massive alignment problem, but you know, I just have to toughen it up until they actually change their class, at which point they'll be pretty much unstoppable. Oh, wow, a Ninja Master that actually used Dark Quest. That's rare. Usually Ninja Masters, which is the leader of the other group, will use the elements to which the character he's targeting is weakest to. And one of the things is that most characters are actually weak to dark elements, so that's a surprise. I would have expected him to use Thunder Flare, for instance. Was that the end of that? No, it wasn't. They still have 1 turn on them. Nope, it was done. So yeah, not a particularly good group, but as I said, they're gonna be pretty unstoppable soon. Next group, we've got Benedict. This group changed a tiny bit, but not overly so. Now I've moved the Thunder Dragon that I had in the front row to the back one in order to add us some elemental damage. I still have my 3 Dollmaster in the front row, and 2 of them have managed to get their hands on fools as opposed to regular puppets, which means they'll do a tiny bit more damage. One of their problems at the moment is that they don't really have access to elemental attack. Fortunately, once that dragon actually gets into a tier 2 class, and I get to some maps which have actually some elementally aspected puppets, they'll be pretty darn good. I think that was the end of that, was it? No, it was not. Turns out it was. Well. Might seem like I don't know what I'm doing, it's because, you know, the way those training are made, I can't actually know when their turns are done unless I actually keep close attention. Next group, Orville. Oh my, that's surprising. 3 ghosts and a berserker. Well, that should be fine anyway. This group is pretty darn powerful at taking down individual units, although I have some trouble with using those witches. I'm trying to give them as much levels as possible until they get into a tier 2 class. This shouldn't take too long, I'm hoping. Okay, another big clay assault. Fairly interesting with those 3D effects. Although this may not be the most interesting of spells, still, it's nice enough. And it's as simple as that. Off to the next group. It's a bit of overkill having so many casters, although in due time it'll pay off. Not much items on them though, as I've mentioned before. So next stop, Anderson. This group has been improving rather steadily. Our beast tamer is still about the same that he was, but the Hawkmen in the front row actually got turned into Vultans, the lawful equivalent of the Hawkmen basically in tier 2. I've also managed to change my Griffin into an Opinicus, which is one of the reasons I'm making this video now. The Hawkmen usually aren't very good early on, namely because there are so few elementally aspected axes. However, by slaying a number of Earth Dragons, I've managed to get my hands on Axes of the Worm, which makes them pretty darn powerful at this point in the game. Really big damage there. And that Opinicus is actually doing some half-decent damage at this point, although it's not gonna last. The way his area of effect is done is it's centered in the middle row of the enemy, which means that it deals more damage in a cross shape, whereas it won't do much if the enemy is in diagonal. But that's it for this group. It would be actually more powerful if I actually swapped another Hawkman in, so the Vultan could actually be a flying unit. Now that I think about it, I'll be doing that pretty soon. So, next up, we've got Keha. Keha is a special group that came to pass once I've managed to get access to pumpkin heads. So now we'll see what they can do. This group has much of the same problem as the one from Benedict in that I don't have much great sword that I can use, especially ones that are elementally expected. This will be solved around chapter 3. This is one of the few groups where I actually feel justified at using clerics, which are healers. That move you saw, which the Pumpkinhead will do only once, is the Pumpkin Shower, which basically damage the enemy for half its HP a number of times at the trade of a little bit of damage. That's why the cleric is here, to prevent that the Pumpkinhead gets completely destroyed the turn after. And given that the defensors in the front row are hitting so much, well, that means this group is actually fairly defensible, so yeah. It's not much of a word now, was it? Well, that shows you one of the nice things you can do with Pumpkinheads, and it's only gonna get better. Next up, we've got Tabata's group. Tabata's group is basically the polar opposite of the previous one, in that I've actually put 3 Pumpkinheads in the front row, which, while weak, should be fairly able to survive, at least long enough to do their things. And I have a Valkyrie in the back row, which replaces a Witch, because I didn't have one handy right now. And I have also an Archer, which will allow me to hit enemies in the back row, which will make things simpler for my Pumpkinheads. Basically, the idea of that group is to actually remove as much health as possible to the enemy with the Pumpkinheads, and then finish them off with a caster with an area of effect, or for instance in this case the Archer. Like for instance, we could take down their leader, maybe another unit once we're through. But that's actually pretty good. We're selling a lot of tier 2 AoE courtesy of that ninja, so that's actually pretty cool. Not much luck with them running into autonomous though. Oh well. I actually really like this group. It's one of the most fun ones I had yet. So yeah. And to finish, we've got Kate's group. Kate's group is still a work in progress. I've got that Hawkman that I'm gonna move to Anderson's group right there, who's still getting a few levels. I've also got 2 Dollmaster that are gonna be turned into Ninja Masters shortly, as well as a Valkyrie and a Witch. Not much damage in there, but that should get solved pretty quickly. One thing you'll notice is that the Dollmaster to the right actually has a special doll, which is the Gallant doll. You receive this as a birthday present from your army's officer when Magnus turns 20. This doll is actually fairly powerful and also has the same element as your army's leader, in this case, Wind. So yeah. It's one of the ways to make Dollmasters viable this early in the game, so that's cool. Anyhow, that's gonna be it for that group. And here we are. So I'm afraid that's going to be it for the time being. Soon we'll get access to actual tier 2 classes, which will allow us to make things a little different in our army soon. So in the meantime, thank you for watching everyone. This was Great Pumpkin. You all have a pleasant time now. Bye!